Let's come to order. Today is Tuesday, November the 1st. We're at the Civic Center for our pre-agenda workshop. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin, Ms. Albrecht,
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace. Here. Mr. Putnam.
Here. The first item on the agenda tonight is ordinance 658. It's about the sanitation ordinance. This is a fine-tuning change where garbage and trash, section 3, paragraph A, garbage and trash accumulated by residences and businesses. This amendment is strictly to strike the words "and businesses," so the businesses continue to receive commercial pickup as usual throughout the year. This will be for a first reading.
Your Honor, if we could make some sort of adjustment. I was talking to the city attorney before the meeting, and it appears that if you look at section 3, letters A and B, it appears that those two should be combined into a single paragraph. Probably should read garbage and trash accumulated by residences and businesses shall be collected 2 times per week, and so forth. So when it gets to this area where it says October 1 and February 28th, it probably should say except businesses, if that makes more sense.
Either way, the intent is exactly the same.
Exactly.
Any questions from the table? Any questions from the floor?
Business pickup possibly?
Just like it always had been before. We never intended to change business pickup,
But you did.
but it just slipped past me. I didn't catch that word.
Okay, so it's going back to businesses and possibly.
Already has. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the budget amendment. Adrian, you want to talk about that, please?
Let me get you here. There's 2 of them. The first one is the ordinance, of course, that lays out the total amounts. But if you go to the attachment on the next page, you will see a change for fire and ESU impact fees from $48,308 to $53,308. That's a difference of $5,000 transferring in to purchase a brush truck from the city of Parker. The next one down is sewer impact fees. We've been using sewer impact fees to rehab our sewer lift stations throughout the city. We budgeted $40,000. The quote we have received after bidding it out is around $51,000, and we brought it up to $60,000 for contingencies and if they find anything else during the project and if something happens throughout the year. So that's the transfer in of impact fees from the sewer fund. And under the expense side is the improvements other than building for sewer from 40 to 60, and the machinery and equipment capital purchase of $5,000. We do already have the brush truck. If the council does not choose to have it come in from impact fees, the fire department will pay for it, but they would prefer to use their impact fee amount. Either way, the amendment will need to happen on the capital side because it's going to be the city asset. They will just reimburse us for it. So either way, we're going to have to amend that to allow for that expenditure.
Okay. Philip, you were involved in picking up this truck.
Yes, sir.
We talked about not spending $80,000 for a brush truck last year. Now, why do we need this truck?
Well, we bought it, it's kind of as a double-edged sword. It's going to help us with our ISO rating when that comes around, because now we have 2 functional trucks. And the other reason we bought it is because this is a dual threat truck. We can use it to fight brush fires or something off-road, but we can also use it as a supply truck for our number 2 truck. If there is a substantial fire, number 2 can go in and start to fight the fire while the brush truck comes in, hooks to the hydrant, and feeds the truck. So we're not, losing any time.
Why is this truck as cheap as it was?
The city of Parker bought it several years ago because they were down a truck. They got rid of one of their old trucks. They needed a 3rd truck for their ISO rating as well and coverage. So they bought that truck until the 3rd one, they just ordered a brand new truck, and it just come in. I think it came in the day we went over there to go look at the brush truck. That's why they're getting rid of it. they don't need it. They just simply don't need it.
Other questions?
How many miles does it have on it?
29,000 original miles.
And you talked to the mechanic that works on it?
We
all
spoke with the
the
mechanic. Everything functions exactly like it should be. It's perfectly mechanically sound. It may not look the greatest. It is an older truck, but it is 100% mechanically sound.
So if I just looked at it, I would just say it's a little fire truck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little short, stubby joker. Probably could fit in this footprint here. But it serves our purposes for the time being. This is in no way, shape, or form a long-term solution. This is the best option we have at this time.
And this for sure will change our rating with the insurance people.
It will for sure help our rating.
If we don't approve it, how much money does the fire department have to pay for it?
Oh, boy. About $28,000, I
Okay.
believe, is the total they have between both funds. They have a
Okay.
donation account, and then they have the volunteer fire account.
Okay.
Ms. Logan?
Didn't the city have a brush truck before?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not gonna let this one go down like that brush truck was allowed to deteriorate, are you?
I am the public works director. I don't have any control over that. While I don't have control over it, I do have some influence over it, and we plan on keeping what we do have. It's hard enough to get something as it is.
Any other questions from the floor?
Will the city do the mechanical work on it as required?
We can do some. When it comes to the pumps and things like that,
No,
we have to.
I'm talking about just general upkeep.
Oil changes, things like that, yes, sir.
I think it's correct that these increased expenditures would come from impact fees that are being collected anyways. It'd be good in their ordinance to clarify where the increase is coming from. I think it's impact fees as opposed to just general reserves or some other resource.
Right? It's the right place to get it from. I don't have any other questions about this. Let me put this on the agenda. Planning and zoning recommendations, Mel?
Planning and zoning did meet last night, and I'm happy to say that no one wore their false faces last night at the planning and zoning Halloween celebration. But nonetheless, because that was the first time the P and Z got together to discuss this issue, 2 of the 5 main members were not there, and just one of the alternates were there. So they didn't feel that they knew enough to really make a recommendation yet. That will give them a month to research the subject, ask some of their constituents what they think about the issue. So with that is forthcoming. But we did have a long conversation about how to involve the public and get better input from the public as we move forward. So they did schedule a subsequent meeting on the 29th of November to try to get that public input. The input we had from the public last night was very well received. It was very cordial, very well respected. So we hope to try to get more people out to kind of have the same thinking that we did last night. So
Excuse me, are we
29th.
talking about food trucks, or are we talking about something else?
Plan and zoning for the recommendation for the lot, trailers on lots.
Okay.
Oh,
And of course, there's no recommendation yet.
so what was the feeling of the group last night?
The feeling of the group that was in attendance was that keep it like it is. Mexico Beach is as pristine as we can get it, and that they felt that having trailers and RVs parked at various places around the city would make us look a little worse than what we do. So their opinion was to keep it like it is, but that's just the first kick at the cat, shall we say.
Okay. And also under this line, we have the proposed ordinance for food trailers. didn't get a chance to read this until just now.
We passed it out earlier this morning, and I put a hard copy in front of you for this evening. If you have any questions, if you haven't read it, you don't have any questions yet, but nonetheless, if you do, Mr. Benanate is here to answer those.
Does this create a special class by exempting these two people?
It's normal grandfathering that the city and other cities do on a frequent basis, under the theory that when they began their businesses, they were permitted and the rules changed after the fact.
Okay, so this ordinance also says if they quit their business, there's no successor going to be allowed there.
Right, it says if they change ownership, that they've lost that ability to continue business. If they've moved to a different parcel, they've lost that ability. And it's a little tighter than the grandfathering clauses in our LDR that are in existence there. It's very clear that they can't expand or change what they're doing. It's just to continue on as is.
I have read this. Have y'all read this?
Yes.
Okay. It's been out there for a while. We're going to still try to do a first reading next week.
Okay with me.
Okay. Put this ordinance for first read. Okay, miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous from the table? Any miscellaneous from the floor? You have some?
Yeah, I've got two. First one, it's Thanksgiving month. Are we having a workshop or not? The week of Thanksgiving is our monthly scheduled workshop, the 22nd. Don't know who's going to be here, who's not. Are we going to go as scheduled, or is that meeting going to be canceled?
And Thanksgiving is the 24th.
Yes, sir.
I think we should have that meeting. That's 2 days before Thanksgiving. What do y'all think?
Fine with me.
So we gotta start working on the LDR. Okay, we've got some input coming for that meeting. Go ahead.
All right, my next one. I've been working on a task of street assessments. We've talked about getting the street assessment for 24th Street, for the Oleander project, for 30th Street, and we don't have a set policy establishing an assessment. I think in the past somebody said it was $5 a foot of frontage of what they pay. Before I proceed in drafting this ordinance and creating it, I want to know if the council wants me to create that, if it's what type of guidelines you want. $5 a foot simply doesn't do much. It pays for staff time to draft the assessment pretty much. And I don't think it's worth it on that side. And the other thing is we also adopted the local option gas tax, which goes straight into our paving and maintenance fund. And the whole reason behind that fund was to pay for paving and maintenance of our roads throughout time. That account, I believe, has about $550,000 in it. So is the wish of the council to start assessing or continue assessing, whichever way you look at it, or should we not even bother with it?
I have 2 bits of input. First of all, I visited Killer Seafood. No one has talked to them about this project. And the 9th Street and Oleander wraps around Killer Seafood. It's not really any effect on them really, because it's a resurfacing on 9th Street, and the behind is Oleander. But I'm not so sure that people have talked to, that enough people have talked to the folks on Oleander. If we pave that road, they will no longer be able to park in the street, which they do now. And honestly, Mel, I don't know who needs to talk to them, but somebody needs to talk to them before we move ahead with that. Because right now, they don't have any place to park in the back. If we pave the front, they can't park in the road. And if there's not enough right-of-way, there's already an issue there with where to put mailboxes. There are mailboxes sitting out in the middle of nowhere over there when they should be adjacent to the property owners. house. So there's two issues there that need to be looked at. I think we should do it by letter to all the residents on Oleander before we move forward. My sense is that if we're not going to collect but a few dollars, and we don't have any more streets to pave now, it's not really important one way or the other. But what I'm looking further down the road though, what about assessments into new developments? I know the contractor has to do it first, but then subsequent roads after that, there may be a new road that has to be put in after that's turned over to the city.
What I've been looking at last week is I pulled some ordinances from some city contacts I have, mainly in Minnesota, but they compare because they all have an ordinance. 100% is some of their assessment policies, 75% some of theirs, and 50% was the lowest. So when we're at $5, I thought, well, before I get too far into this, I need to know what do we think is a reasonable amount to assess.
So what does it cost a foot to do?
I'd say roughly $75 to $80 a foot. That's one side, just rough guess. I mean, the 24th Street project, if we would have assessed the $5 a foot, I think we would have brought in $1,100. And that project cost us,
I actually have at the office of my computer 2 different bids to pave Oleander behind Killer Seafood there, 9th Street, and what was that, 30th Street? 30th Street, and I believe the total cost per foot was closer to $120 per foot. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I do have quotes to do those projects.
Well, we just paid $30-something thousand for 320 feet at the park. That track's a lot higher than,
how many feet was that?
about 320 feet are gone.
Now, the biggest thing to remember is Oleander Avenue that runs from C Street to 8th Street is by far the worst road that we have in Mexico Beach. The second worst road, which is still in good shape, but it gets used more than any other road, is 15th Street. So we have to look at down the road. Eventually, there's going to come a time we have to fix that road. Oleander's the worst. And then we have Mistler. Mistler's a road that is in between Sharon's Cafe and Go Foods. Is that right?
I think you're right.
That it's a platted road, but it doesn't exist yet. It's all wooded lots. It's all, but it's platted on our map as a road. So if that would ever develop, I don't know how that works out. I don't know if the city would have to pay that. I'm assuming they would. We would because it's a platted road. But that would have to be done as well if that ever comes to pass.
Yeah, if it ever comes to pass, because behind those condos right there, that's wetland. I don't know why it would be developed right off the top of my head. That's why it hadn't been developed so far, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
And these questions about platted roads and who builds them and maintaining them after the initial construction, it's generally handled through the dedication language on the plats. They'll differentiate between a private road where the city's not required to do anything with it, or a road that's been dedicated to the city, and if you want to play around with some of those rules, that can be done as well.
Okay.
So help me to clarify. The assessment to a homeowner isn't just for new roads, it would be for resurfacing.
The ordinance I began to draft and stopped because I had too many questions, was it depended on the type. A new road was 100% cost to the developer. I mean, that's a new road, it should cost, they should pay 100% of it. Resurfacing, I think I said 50%. A rebuild was like 25 or 50%. Just a layover over the pavement. It was all different
Okay.
depending on the type.
Okay.
An alley was different. And at $5 a foot is what we talked about before, and I don't see why we would do that if we wanted to go this route.
I don't have a problem with assessing, and I'm sure that the $5 a foot years ago was because the cost was so much less. So, I mean, I can understand why they would have had $5 a foot, but I don't have a problem assessing.
I would like to see some more information about what everything actually costs before we actually delve into an ordinance, and so we can have some comparative figures.
And by going to a percentage, that would be a permanent solution of, as costs go up, they're always paying a percentage instead of a dollar amount. And that's why I came up with the percentage idea, but again, everything's different, everything costs different amounts, so we need to know what things cost. What was the Oleander paving gonna cost?
I wasn't part of that, but at the time, when I was on road department, Hubbard did talk to me about it, and I think the estimate was around $400,000. Now that wasn't a resurfacing, that was going in and tearing out the old road, redoing the base, redoing everything.
Wow. And that was a number of years ago, so, most likely that price went up.
Probably, and also
Yeah,
Oleander's
right.
about a mile long,
Right.
long stretch of road. It was high dollar. It was 350, 400,000.
So Adrian, the ordinance you're considering would be something that would be a continuous, long-term ordinance
An
that would
assessment
apply to
policy.
whatever project happens to come up to split up the cost.
And I would lean toward a percentage, so we wouldn't have to go back and amend this thing, or our successors wouldn't have to amend it time after time.
And just for the two we're doing this year is 30th Street and Oleander behind Killer. We budgeted $50,000 from paving and maintenance to pay for that project, and I don't know how many feet of road that is.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I have all that.
It's not very much.
Because I remember the assessment at $5 a foot why are
I'm
we
going
doing
to say
this?
altogether, Oleander, 9th Street, and 30th Street was less than 300 feet. I mean, it's not a lot at all.
It's actually a resurface on 9th Street, and then a new construction on
Yeah.
Oleander.
I think it was 289 total feet.
So do you want me to take a stab at it for a future meeting, or?
Let's have a little more data before we get into that, know a little bit more about it. I'm kind of off guard, I'd like to do a little research myself. How about y'all?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
You'll have time
I'll have time soon.
to,
There's no presentations on the agenda. Did I not see it?
What do you want me to call it?
Presentations.
I did put a award presentation underneath scheduled appearances, but I can make a separate column.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I didn't see it. What I'm talking about, we've got 3 members of the community who are going to be honored at our council meeting on Wednesday. All have to do with veterans and their work with veterans. With special invocation, special presentation of colors to honor veterans. That's all right, just leave it right there.
Okay.
That's all right.
On the top of the agenda, did you want that reworded for the presentation of the colors, or is that just going to go with the invocation and the pledge?
I'll just do it and live.
So just leave it as is? Okay.
Yeah. We have a special color guard coming.
And then your minutes are there.
Yep. So that's not too far down.
Okay. There's a whole bunch of ordinances. There's a whole bunch of ordinances on next week's meeting. The first 3 have to do with clarifying things from the code that we were removing from when we had the code discussion. Number 658 is the sanitation first reading. Number 659 is the budget amendment. And 660, which is not listed, will be the one related to food trucks and trailers. Then on the 3rd page, let me get everybody up to speed here. It says first reading again, change that word to second reading. And that'll be the water and sewer rates. Notice went out with the water bill, that they will have a public hearing. So next Wednesday will be the adoption of that. And then department reports, and I have no other business on there unless the council can think of something.
Okay. I have another item of miscellaneous. A meeting that Mel and I went to recently, back when Mayor Kathy was still the mayor, and I went over to talk to the sewer folks about sewer. We asked for an additional 150,000 gallons of allocation for sewer, and 18 months later, they finally came back to us, and they provided that. Mel alluded to this the other day, but several people asked me a question about that. What will it do to my sewer bill? It'll add about $4 per current user. How do you lower that amount? You put more people onto the program or onto the sewer system, which we can do with other developments coming to town as well as other buildings. 150,000 gallons is enough for 1,000 new density units. So why are we having to do it? Because we've reached over 80% of our allocation. We went over 3 times in the last year, 2 times the year before, 1 time the year before that. But 80% of allocation is where you're supposed to try to stay under, and we have now surpassed that. That's why we're looking at additional allocation, as well as all the developments coming in, which we need to tie into the system. Do not confuse allocation and capacity. That was another question. We have a sewer pipe capable of theoretically 50 million gallons a month. We only have an allocation of 370 something gallons a month, and this will carry us to over 500,000 gallons, a day. So the pipe will take care of our needs now and way into the future. That's not the issue at all. It's what piece of the pie we get to put our sanitation in with the county. We'll be talking more about that as the wording, on how we're going to get that gets worked out.
And we're still waiting it's a lease, it's the type of document from the county, and they mentioned hopefully looking at a December approval on it.
Okay.
So the people that live in Mexico Beach, their bill, if approved and all this, will go up $4? Did you say?
It would just to cover the cost of the
Okay.
additional allocation.
So those people in Gulf County that are getting our water, will they go up $4 or more?
Be 25% more than the
More.
amount the city
That's what I
does.
thought. Okay, just wanted to double check on that.
Okay. Review the draft agenda.
Oh, we just kind of did.
Okay. I mean, is there anything else?
No, it's just that 660 is the only thing not on here, and that changed the word first to second read.
Okay. Anybody else know anything we left off?
If we get this increase of $4, I'm back on this, and we have some new areas open up that are not even in the city now, and we add the cost, and add the cost, and then the cost. But my question is, does this mean this $4 could be adjustable down the road, or we're gonna forever have the $4 increase? Or do we know?
We're going to forever pay for the percentage of the service from Bay County, but as we go down the road and add customers to the system, the prorated share per customer will go down. And it's not all bad either. Let's use, for example, the new development, the new PUD that the county approved. There's 60 some odd houses there. They'll pay a sewer impact fee into the sewer fund, as well as 25% more if they're not annexed into the city. We don't know that yet. We're actually meeting with the engineer tomorrow on that project to find out what they're looking for. I've got surgery on Thursday next week, so I'll look like a one-armed bandit for a while. No big deal, not gonna miss any meetings.
And for the public, I'll be gone all next week again. It's that other half that I said I was going to miss from the wedding.
Great.
You getting married again?
Nope, honeymoon.
Oh,
Does that mean we can meet you in golf then?
I cannot golf either. Bad. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Thank you.
Now everybody go